Okay. Oh, wow. Sound. So we rang the bell. Nobody came out fighting. That's how we know we're at a church service. And it's the second Sunday of the month. So we're all here, Interfaith Community Sanctuary. We're doing a universal worship service that is concerned with our theme of the month, which we will talk about in a little bit. And that's about it. I'm glad to see everyone here. I left the room and there was hardly anybody here, and then, here we are. So I asked Zach to call in the ancestors. Yes, thank you. Can you help me? And now we're going to do that thing I said.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, everyone here, everyone at home. Like you said, I'm going to welcome the ancestors. Everyone here, everyone at home, everyone everywhere. We have mothers, we have fathers, we are all little kids at one point. I had a 1-month-old little kid at my house last night, so that's kind of a nice remembrance of where we all came from. You are, and no matter your situation with your family, we all have the ancestors, and you can think that they go farther and farther back until the dawn of time, basically. And somehow or another, we all kind of connected somehow there. So let's sit with that. Remember all those layers upon layers upon layers of ancestors. Bring them all here, welcome them all here. Say thanks. Also, along with the ancestors, no matter where you are, anywhere at home, anywhere here, most likely that land is not necessarily brand new to us. People have been living on it for eons and eons. In this particular area, Pacific Northwest, we have the Coast Salish people, lots of different tribes, but all of them more or less part of that Coast Salish community. Here at the sanctuary, it's Duwamish land. And that's a kind of a touchy subject. The Duwamish are still around. They're still very active, yet they're not recognized. There are lots of tribes that are recognized. Duwamish are not one of them. So maybe think about that. And think about the gratitude that we should have for them taking care of the land, all the folks that came before us taking care of the land. And maybe with that gratitude, you can have some of that remembrance and bring it into your daily life. And maybe that affects how you take care of the land. Thank you very much.
This chant is to the Divine Mother of the universe. And basically it means victory to our beloved Divine Mother, Ambe Bhavani, Jaya Jagadambe. Please chant with me.
Thank you. Let's do upcoming gatherings. We have, as usual, lots of upcoming gatherings. None of them are in my head. Lots of stuff just happened. We just did Peace Camp for a number of weeks, and that ended on Friday. So the whole building was full of activity and dancing and games and heart opening. So that was very beautiful. Lots of things go on in this building on a regular basis. The Mevlevis meet here on Monday night and do ecstatic Sufi practices that everyone is invited to at 7:30 every Monday, right here. There's Course in Miracles meets here on Tuesdays. Not all the time. They're sometimes on Zoom. First and third Tuesdays, they're in person. Thursdays, we have a sitting in silence practice. That's at 7. And it's just what it sounds like. There are no prerequisites, and there is no certificate. It's just sitting in silence. And did you want to say anything else about that? Okay. Friday, we have our Friday prayer circle, still meeting online, not here, but maybe it will someday again. Inshallah. But it's still meeting non-locally, and that's a beautiful community has developed into. Next Sunday is Jamal Rahman's service. In the intervening week, many of us will be going to the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago and representing this place as well as some of our individual traditions. Anybody else have announcements for things upcoming? You have a mic.
I wanted to add the Friday prayer circle that Michael referred to. Those are prayers in the Islamic tradition. So, they're online right now, and it's because we have people from all over the country who attend these. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that on August 25th, we're going to have a kirtan. And if you have never been to a kirtan before, it's ecstatic devotions in the Hindu tradition. So you can get the best of both worlds. You can come on a Monday for Sufi, Islamic ecstatic traditions, and then you can come to kirtan for the Hindu ones. This way all your bases are covered. So come.
Isn't that your birthday?
Yeah, but that's not important. The kirtan's important.
Okay. Anyone else? Cool. Yeah. We are having a treasure sale. I believe it is on the 9th of January? The 9th of September? Yes. The Saturday. Yes, I believe that is a Saturday. So put it on your calendar or give us stuff to sell. I'm sure there's a way to do that. I don't know if we've decided what it is yet. Just a few days before, we'll have some time for people to do that. The 7th and 8th, there will be collections here, and then we will sell it all on the 9th. So we're keeping the market moving, and I'm supposed to make a plea for funds at the beginning of the service. I always forget to do that, but I want to point out that for the people online, you can go to our website interfaithcommunitysanctuary.org, and there's a prominent donate button. And for those of you who do your economic stuff in the digital world, there is a big Q code thing at the front door that you could just point your phone at and funnel money in our direction. This is a good thing to do because we exist in the physical world and we have a building. And while we basically run our operation on a shoestring, it's there's still maintenance and things about being in the physical world in an old and very beautiful building. We mention this a lot, but this is the oldest wooden church in Seattle that's still around and recognizable as a church. It was built by German Lutherans in 1890 and has gone through various manifestations of spiritual practice since then, and here we are. So we're part of a long tradition here, a long physical tradition, and even before this building was built, we are taught by our Duwamish friends that that people met here for spiritual gatherings in this very place. So, no, I'll do that later. Thank you though. People have suggested I do that early because we're online. We cut off the live stream later, and so that we can talk among ourselves freely. So we are in the third section of the third stage of our yearly discernment, which is really kind of a practical approach to transforming the body, heart, and mind. Trying to be practical, at least. Trying to be pragmatic, rubber hits the road kind of viewpoint. We are in the third stage of that. To quickly recap, according to, most traditions have a sort of stages of the spiritual life map, and we're abstracting a sort of universal map from many traditions. The first stage really is the getting on the path. Sometimes they think of it as purification, or the moral level of things, or the level that really anyone can get on. It's very well step into the spiritual path, and especially the sort of exoteric face of many religions. There are no prerequisites. Anyone can do it. And when we first step onto the path, when we first seriously take stock of ourselves as spiritual beings, usually we have to confront a lot of psychological stuff. We have to work with our ego. We have to learn. We don't need to, transform our egos overnight, but we do have to sort of recognize the downsides of some of our habitual patterns and all that kind of thing, and learn to recognize when we're getting in our own way. That's really the first stage of the path. The second stage of the path is more narrowly focused for each of us individually, but collectively there's a lot more variety in it because we are incredibly varietal. And in the Quran they say there's as many different religions as there are people. And that's what the second stage is about. It's focused on either following and committing to a specific spiritual path or a teacher, but it can also be just focusing more on what is your individual path. What is the path that only you can walk, essentially? The third stage is really all of that striving and effort to reach a goal, in a way, a higher reality, to get out, to transcend your limitations as an individual personality. When all of that really starts to bear fruit, you know, you start feeling a response from the universe. The Christians talk about this as grace. You know, Muslims talk about it as sometimes as barakah, blessing. There is a sense where after all of the striving to change your attitude and your behavior and make things more positive and get closer to the divine, or whatever, however you conceptualize this, that you've opened your heart and your being and your mind up enough that all of that comes back to you and begins to bear fruit, in a sense. And, you know, one of our challenges there is to be open to how big we can actually be, to how unlimited our real self. A lot of the struggle is just to stop trying so hard, and you know, and accept the absolute wonder that is this existence. So we're going to start the universal worship now, and we're going to look at this from the perspective of many different traditions. We use 8 different traditions, and that's just as many as we have time for. As we mentioned before, there are as many traditions as there are people, really. So we're going to look at this from a number of different traditions and sort of stake out a unifying thread and see where that takes us. Okay. Please stand with me for the invocation. Towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Please be seated. We offer to the omniscient God, to the glory of the omniscient God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Hindu religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Buddhist religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Zoroastrian religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Taoist religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the indigenous religions. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Jewish religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Christian religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing the Muslim religion. To the glory of the omnipresent God, we kindle this light, symbolically representing all those who have held aloft the light of truth amidst the darkness of human ignorance.
Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms. Raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship. To thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity, thee only do we worship, and towards thee alone do we aspire. Open our hearts towards thy beauty. Illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, all-powerful creator, sustainer, judge, and forgiver of our shortcomings, Lord God of the east and of the west, of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and unseen beings, pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purposes that thy wisdom chooses, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our lives, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. Amen. Now, if everyone will be seated, please. And I will read the writings. First is from Hinduism, from the Shivastoravali of Utpaladeva. I bow to those who, going nowhere and renouncing nothing, yet view all this as your glorious abode. What else remains to be desired by those rolling in the wealth of devotion? For those deprived of it, what else is worthy of desire? Where even agonies transform into pleasure and poison into nectar, where the world itself becomes liberation, this is the path of Shankara. In the beginning, the middle, or the final stages, there is no pain for your devotees, O Lord. Still, we are suffering. What is this? Tell me. We offer to thee, omniscient God, our homage, our reverence, and our gratitude for the light of the divine wisdom.
So this is from the Tantric tradition. It says, this is the path of Shankara. Shankara is Shiva. And in particular, Shankara is the manifestation of Shiva that you see, where he's like up on Mount Kailash and looks like an ascetic, you know, and has like the you know, the wild ascetic hair and the you know, the I think it's a leopard skin loincloth, and you know, he's it's the ascetic up in the Himalayas version of Shiva. So this is really beautiful, because he's saying this is the path of Shankara, going nowhere and renouncing nothing. In other words, you don't have to change anything in your life. You don't have to change anything outward in your life to follow this path where the world itself is liberation. This is a step beyond, you know, in our dualistic thinking of what we ordinarily think of as transcendence. You know, this sense that we need to go up into the mountains and into a cave and renounce our families and, you know, all this kind of thing, which is a very traditional path, and was very appropriate to the stage of evolution that we were at when that developed, and is still not inappropriate if that is your path. God love you, you know? I mean, I think a certain percentage of people need to be doing that for the world to stay in balance. But if that wasn't true, people would stop doing it. But it's not necessarily our path. Our path is right here, right now, working in the world, living balanced lives. And what this is saying is that living in the world, going nowhere and renouncing nothing, is potentially going to the exact same place, where the world itself becomes liberation, where we view all of this as the glorious abode of God. All of this meaning our lives, our bodies, our friends, you know, this place. It's, we can take a lot of different attitudes to the world, but if we view the world as the abode of God, we create that in our lives, and we create it for everyone else in the universe. In a sense, this is our job. There's a in the Tibetan Buddhist mandala practice, there's stages of the practice. A mandala is a kind of, do people know what a mandala is? I'm just like looking around. I'm like, yeah, of course we do. A mandala is a map of the world. It's a map of reality. And there's, Mandala. Yes. That's like, yes, the Kala Chakra mandala is, like the Buddhists making this. They're various maps of reality. You know, they represent various things about, you know, the nature of reality. And the idea is that you learn the map, you learn the visualization, right? And then you project that visualization onto the world that you actually live in, right? As a practice. And then the world turns into that, and you are living inside of it. And this is the, I forget what the stages are called, but this is analogous to the third stage of sort of union that we're talking about, where you're walking a spiritual path. And there's a point where you become the path. You are no longer an individual walking on the path. You become united with the path. And if that sounds a little abstract, what that means is that anywhere you step is the path. So you are no longer separate. And this is and you are no longer striving in the same way to stay on the path because you are inside of it. So it's a very different way of relating to the world and to our ideals. Okay.
Translated by Thomas Cleary. Translated by Thomas Cleary. Forgetting all knowledge at one stroke, I do not need cultivation anymore. Actively expressing the ancient road, I don't fall into passivity. Everywhere, trackless and our gratitude.
So this again brings up this sense of becoming the path instead of walking the path. And it also brings up this sense of the lack of striving, the cessation of effort, forgetting all knowledge at one stroke. The sense is that if you're in connection with reality, if your intuitive capacity is developed, you are sensing the reality of the world in the moment, and the world will tell you what you need to know. You're not operating from banks of knowledge in the same way. You're operating from an intuitive sense. And this is why it says, I do not need cultivation anymore. There's a time for cultivation, and there's a time for harvesting. And we don't want to be digging up the ground when we should be harvesting. Sometimes we just fall into these habits. We have a certain approach to life and our discipline and our how we channel our energy. And those needs evolve because often the efforts that we're making are successful. And we don't need to keep propping them up. We can move on to the next stage. Activity expressing the ancient road, I don't fall into passivity. This is another thing. When we give up efforting, when we give up striving, it doesn't mean we stop doing things. We're still active in the world. We're still doing what needs to be done. We're just not creating extra work for ourselves. This in many traditions, this is called being in tune with the will of God, and this is there's a feeling of being supported. If you are in tune with the will of God, if you are in harmony with the will of God, then things work out well. There's a feeling of there's a feeling of things falling into place, and that's part of this. When it says everywhere trackless, conduct beyond sound and form, this is the experience of becoming one with the road, becoming one with the path. Everywhere is trackless because everywhere you step is the road. You aren't following something you've done before. You aren't following something anybody else has done before. You are just walking into the light. Okay.
From the Zoroastrian tradition, from the Gathas. And thus may we be like the lords of wisdom and of the life who make ever fresh and reclaim this our life on earth. And may we become the bearers of universal love through Asha, divine harmony, so that in single-minded concentration we may abide where Chiste, that ray of perceptive wisdom, takes up her stand. We offer to thee, omniscient God, our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine purity.
So when this says the Lords of Wisdom and Life, this is the plural of Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda is the supreme god in the Zoroastrian tradition. And there's a handful of places in the Gathas where it's in the plural like this. Rich actually pointed out to me that this is similar to the word Elohim in Lords of Wisdom and Life. It's saying, let us realize our highest potential, the highest potential of who we are. Because, foundationally, we are the divine. That's where we all come from. That's where we all go. So we can get there by going into ourselves. And I love it when scriptures just tell you exactly what to do, in a very clear way. This is saying, there are steps here. We perceive the divine harmony. Now that's a practice. The perceiving the divine harmony, which is there, is really a sense of being attentive, being open, listening for it. And, our minds focus on chaos a lot of the time because that's what's jumping up and catching our attention. And, all you have to do is turn on the news to see how much we gravitate towards chaos. But how much we, want to talk about conflict and this, and we completely ignore the amazing underlying harmony of everything. That it's, but if we are attentive, to the harmony of things, and we keep listening, then we go to the next stage, which is to love everything. If you are seeing the deep harmony and the deep sense of relatedness between yourself and all things, there's a natural, you fall in love. It's almost impossible not to. It's like because that openness is its own gate in a way. It's just it amplifies itself the more attention you pay, and you find that that your love increases and you start to love everything. Everyone has had the experience of falling in love, and suddenly the whole world is different, and you start to sort of fall in love with the rest of the world. Because you have one object of love, you start to love everything. This is very common, and And then as we love everything, we start to actualize our perceptive wisdom. We start to actualize our intuition in exactly the same way that if you love one person, you become attentive to their needs. You know, you understand what they need. You understand what they want. You understand how you can help them. Or at least you try, you know. And we often succeed if we listen close enough. We can develop this relationship with everything that we touch. Okay.
From the Taoist tradition, from the Tao Te Ching. Stop being holy. Forget being prudent. It'll be 100 times better for everyone. Stop being altruistic. Forget being righteous. People will remember what family feeling is. Stop planning. Forget making a profit. There won't be any thieves and robbers. But even these 3 rules needn't be followed. What works reliably is to know the raw silk, hold the uncut wood, need less, want less, forget the rules, be untroubled. We offer to the omniscient God our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine way.
So this is from the Tao Te Ching, and you know the first 3 lines where it says stop being holy, stop being altruistic, stop planning. It doesn't really mean stop doing anything that could be seen as altruistic or seen as planning. What they're saying is don't get distracted by the concept. Don't get distracted by the concept of being altruistic. Just do what needs to be done. Don't think about being holy. Don't try to be holy. Just be holy, because you are already. Just do the people want you to see. And this is really, really easy for us to see working in our world because we have so much media. You know, the media is basically what the world wants you to see. You know, it's usually with a profit motive. So when they say need little, want less, they're saying disengage from that system of other people telling you how to see the world, of other people telling you what you need. And, you know, we live in such a grossly greedy, acquisitive kind of conceptual and mental space as represented by all the stream of information that is biased in such a way to get you to act in certain ways. This is what they're saying to disengage from. Just see what's actually there. And, you know, just like it says in the passage from the Hindu tradition, this does not require changing your behavior. You know, it doesn't necessarily require going on a diet or, you know, changing the way you budget things. It's about how you relate to reality and how much you are, how much you're letting other people program you instead of simply being in your own body and your own self and experiencing the world in an open way. In the, there's a great metaphor they bring up a lot in the Buddhist tradition where they say, be the lion, not the dog, because if you're with a dog and you throw a stick, the dog will go chasing the stick. If you go up to a lion and throw a stick, the lion's still looking at you. The lion's not interested in the stick. So be the lion. Don't let other people, don't follow other people's distractions. Just see what's really there.
From the indigenous traditions, from Black Elk, Oglala Lakota. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and understood more than I saw, for I was seeing in a sacred manner the shapes of all things in the spirit, and the shape of all shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that made one circle, white as daylight and as starlight. And in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. We offer to thee, omniscient God, our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine relationship.
So this is the vision of divine harmony that we were referencing before. When in the Zoroastrian passage where it's talking about the ray of perceptive wisdom through which you see divine harmony and fall into this place of universal love. This is a universal experience. This is in every tradition. This is in every human heart. We've all experienced this to some level. When we experience this consciously as mature human beings, it can completely transform the way we relate to the world. And we've all had this experience, maybe not quite at this level that he's talking about and that he experienced in this moment, but we've all had these experiences of metanoia in the Christian tradition, where you turn your mind around and instead of like looking out at the plurality, you look at the source of harmony. But then, slowly that balance changes. And we have the potential to live our life from this kind of unitive state as a foundation. And yeah, let's move on. Bless you.
From the Jewish tradition, from the Tanya. At present, during the exile of this folk, counsel is offered to bring a mite of the illumination of the light of God from the state of Aitan, the state where one experiences the radiance of the supernal wisdom, into the core of the depth of the heart, in the fashion of the time to come. This is through arousing the plenteous mercies above for the godly spark within his soul. For in truth, so long as man does not merit the revelation of the light of God, of the state of Aitan, in the core of his inwardness, of his heart, to become nullified in his unity, blessed be he, until the very expiration of the soul, when it is indeed a great pity on the spark within his soul. For that spark is drawn from the state of the supernal wisdom itself. And when it cannot illuminate from its own state into the internality of the heart, which is the proper place for the revelation of this light, then it is actually in exile. We offer to thee, omniscient God, our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine covenant.
So that's kind of a complex passage, but I want to break it down quickly. It's saying there is wisdom offered, there is technique offered, there is a path made clear to bring a piece of the illumination of the light of God from the state where one experiences the supernal wisdom. That is the state of the abstract, the state beyond concepts. What's called, like in the some traditions, the angelic realm. We are bringing the light of God from that state into the core of our hearts, because they are naturally connected. Because if we go deeply inside, again, this is the foundation of our very being, is the light of God. So there's a natural connection there. So there's two things he's saying here. One is that until we make that connection, our souls are in exile. And when we make that connection, we die as individuals. Now this sounds very intense, but it's good to try to wrap our heads around a little bit. So long as we do not merit to become nullified, to become nothing of the soul, we are in exile. So it's saying the death of self is a homecoming. The death of self is the relief of all of our distress. So, you know, this gets discussed a lot in various circles about whether we should talk about the killing the ego or the death of the ego, because it scares people. But what's dying here is something that's not actually real. You know, what's dying is this, collection of patterns and habits that we think of as ourselves. We are thinking too small about ourselves. Our real self is so much vaster than what we ordinarily conceive of ourselves as, and the things that we are ordinarily attached to. Yeah. Let's go on.
From the Christian tradition, from The Sparkling Stone by John Roycebrook. And after this, there follows the third way of feeling, namely that we feel ourselves to be one with God. For through the transformation in God, we feel ourselves to be swallowed up in the fathomless abyss of our eternal blessedness, wherein we can never more find any distinction between ourselves and God. And this is our highest feeling, which we cannot experience in any other way than in the immersion of love. And therefore, as soon as we are uplifted and drawn into our highest feeling, all our powers stand idle in an essential fruition. But our powers do not pass away into nothingness, for then we would lose our created being. And as long as We stand idle with an inclined spirit and with open eyes, but without reflection, so long we can contemplate and have fruition. But at the same moment in which we seek to prove and to comprehend what it is that we feel, we fall back into reason. And there we find a distinction and an otherness between ourselves and God, and find God outside ourselves in incomprehensibility. We offer to thee, omniscient God, our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine self-sacrifice.
So this is referencing this unitive state, this unitive experience of feeling no separateness between ourselves and God. When they talk about the death of the self, this is when you are experiencing a unified state, you are not experiencing yourself as an individual. You are experiencing, but you are not experiencing the separation. And this is done, as he says here, we cannot experience this in any other way than in immersion in love. And I hope this comes up, this came up before in the Zoroastrian. We become bearers of universal love through divine harmony, and thereby we actualize our perceptive wisdom. In the Hindu selection, it talks about rolling in the wealth of devotion, where even agonies transform into pleasure. And I didn't mention this in the Jewish passage from the Tanya. It says, how do we get to this state where the core of our heart, the light in the core of our heart is connected with the light of the abstract angelic realm? This is through arousing the plenteous mercies above for the godly spark within our soul. It's from a relationship of love, or really an experience of love, because when we are in the midst of that, we are not experiencing it as a relationship. Experiencing it as a relationship, you need to have separation. You need to have two things there. If you're actually experiencing it as union, it's no longer a relationship. There's no two in union. And I also love the way that he points out in this that as soon as you start thinking about it in terms of relationship, it's gone. It's, we've all experienced this on, from trivial to profound levels of, we're doing something perfectly, and then we go, hey, I'm doing it, and then we're not doing it anymore. And that's exactly what he's talking about here. As soon as we go, oh my God, what an amazing experience, and start trying to contextualize it, we are no longer having the experience. It's like we just popped right out. And as soon as we stop, we go right back to having that experience. So it's this sense of concepts getting in our way. Our mind wants to reify everything. It wants to reify our experience. It wants to make it into concepts so that we can analyze it. There's nothing wrong with this process unless it's all we can do. Unless it's a process that we are trapped in and have to use that hammer on everything that comes up. We can know God through our experience. We can know reality, whatever you want to call it, through our experience, but we cannot know it with our mind, because our mind works through separation and distinction. Okay.
from the Islamic tradition, from the Masnavi of Jalaluddin Rumi, were I lip to lip with one who breathes with me, I would tell all that should be told, like the reed. Anyone parted from those who speak their tongue, though they may know 100 songs, have no tongue. When the garden fades and the rose is no more, you will hear the nightingale's story no more. All is the beloved, the lover a screen. The beloved lives, the lover's a dead thing. When there is no appetite for love in them, they are left there like a bird without a wing. How should I sense what's before me or behind when my friend's light is not there for or behind? Love desires that this, I say, should be brought out. What's a mirror if it won't bring secrets out? We offer to thee, omniscient God, our reverence, our homage, and our gratitude for the light of the divine unity.
So this is a beautiful passage, but I just want to bring out these two lines. All is the beloved, the lover a screen. The beloved lives, the lover is a dead thing. So when it says the lover a screen, it means a screen like a veil. This sense, our sense of individuality, our sense of who we take ourselves to be, is literally the screen, the veil that keeps us from experiencing the wider reality. That's why it has to die. And having that false image of ourself die is very beneficial for us, because we will find that we're still there, and that we're actually still there in a much more real way. So it is very much like being in love with one person. When you are in love, you disappear. Your experience of yourself dissolves into your experience of the beloved. And this is exactly the same thing. I mean, maybe not all the time, but certainly sometimes. So we've all had this experience, at least for a moment. And all of the life that we are experiencing is coming from what we're calling God. We don't have any life that is not coming from God. Our sense of our own individuality, is simply not true. You know, I mean, we're connected with everything in the universe. There's no there's no strict line between us and anything else. We are even ourselves. I mean, we're communities of all sorts of living matter, you know, and we like to chop it up in a certain way and look at it like it's, you know, like it's an anatomical map. Those are abstractions, and they're useful. They're very useful. All of our ordinary ways of thinking about the world, we just can't be trapped in them. We have to realize that they're provisional, that there's a reality that underlies them, that is simple, and that is always there, and we can always be in connection with. And if we do that, then we're naturally approaching life from a place of peace, a place of contentment, and we experience more joy. We experience more joy in the fabric of our lives. The more we give up the effort of trying to hold ourselves together as some kind of separate entity. Just give up. Okay, we're going to be silent for a little bit.
If I could have everybody rise for the reading of the second prayer. Most gracious Lord, Master, Messiah, and Savior of humanity, we greet thee with all humility. Thou art the first cause and the last effect, the divine light and the spirit of guidance, Alpha and Omega. Thy light is in all forms, thy love in all beings, in a loving mother, in a kind father, in an innocent child, in a helpful friend, in an inspiring teacher. Allow us to recognize thee in all thy holy names and forms, as Sita and Ram, as Radha and Krishna, as Shiva and Shakti, as Buddha. Let us know thee as Abraham, as Solomon, as Zarathustra, as white buffalo calf woman, as Moses, as Jesus, and as Mary, as Muhammad, and in many other names and forms known and unknown to the world. We adore thy past. Thy presence deeply enlightens our being, and we look for thy blessings in the future. O Messenger, Christ, Nabi, the Rasul of God, thou whose heart constantly reaches upward, thou comest on earth with a message, as a dove from above when Dharma decays, and speak the word that is put into thy mouth. As the light fills the crescent moon, let the star of divine light shining in thy heart be reflected in the hearts of thy devotees. May the message of God reach far.
This dual aspect of love, which is expressed as lover and beloved, is in fact one. And one will die, and one alone will live. The one that will die is the imperfect self which covers perfection.